Okay, welcome. I'm very happy today to be demonstrating for you a new product from the Long Beach Music Company. This is an interactive notation system which allows the students to notate their own music. They can create their own music as well as responding to what the teacher would create. So it's both in terms of having the teacher put something on here that the students would have to perform or count or understand the notation, or they can also create their own piece of music or their own rhythm. So the staff itself is a grand staff. It has both treble and bass, which you can of course use one or the other or combined. The grand staff is a very heavy plastic that's laminated that is virtually indestructible, and so this can get many uses. And then in addition to the staff, we also have the packet of music symbols, the notes. Here you can see the ones I have spread out here: eighth notes, dotted half notes, quarter notes, and so forth. There are numbers included as well, which are for your meter signature. We have sharps and flats for indicating key signatures if you want to do that as well, talking about the scale and keys. And if there's any kind of symbol that you would want, any kind of musical symbol that you would need for writing your own music is included in this packet of musical symbols. These are clear, and of course then you can move the notes up and down on the staff, lines or spaces, and so you're virtually a limitless combination of notes and symbols. Okay, so you can see that we have numbers produced here which will create our meter signature separately, and so you could have 3/4 time, or you could change the upper number to 2/4 time just as easily as that. And so if we have 2 beats in the measure, the quarter note getting 1 beat, the teacher could create any kind of patterns then that would fit with that meter. So you could have 2 quarter notes, for example. You could have eighth notes and a quarter note. So there's lots of different combinations that you could produce, different patterns, and then you would have your students either clap the rhythm or perform the rhythm in some way. And so the student is responding to something that the teacher creates. As I said, you can change that number, and you can change it to 4/4, 3/4. Let's do something in 4/4. So now we switched it to 4/4 meter, and so we can have a pattern of 4 beats in the measure. Let's put a half note, and then a quarter note, and 2 eighth notes. Okay, so again, you could also quiz the students and say, here's my 4/4 meter. Now you create a pattern that would complete those 4 beats within the 4/4. Okay, so our packet of music symbols also includes rest values that are equivalent to every note value. So instead of having the half note here, we could substitute the half rest as well. Instead of having the eighth note, which I had here earlier, I just substituted the eighth rest instead. And of course there are quarter rests and any pattern that you would want to create with a combination of notes or rests, because students need to know how to notate the silence in music as well as the sounds.
Yeah.
So the teacher can create patterns for the students to look at, and what you could do is you could actually create a wrong pattern and say, okay, this is 4 beats in the measure, and see what I have notated here, and is there anything that you would do to correct what I have put here? And so the student would say, okay, well the quarter note is just 1 beat, and here we have 1 beat, and here they have half note for 2 beats. Oh, I have an extra beat, so I have to get rid of something to make it correct. So the student could take out a quarter note, or they could take out the quarter rest to make the correct pattern. So there's many ways that you can use this to test your students, and they will be having fun the whole time because they're interactive and they're getting to manipulate the notes themselves. And you could work with a small group of students and have them all gathered around you and be working together. Okay, so once you had the students learning about the different note values, constructing different patterns, responding to the patterns that you create, you could also have them correct a pattern. If there were too many beats in that measure, you could have them ask them why and so forth. But I think a really great way then of summarizing all of that would be to have all of your materials set to the side and say, okay, here's your 4/4 meter. Now I would like you to create 2 measures of the 4/4 and then explain how many beats are in each measure, and then again have them perform that as well. And that would be a great assessment of understanding if they understood the concepts of the different note values and the relative values. So for the more advanced students then, you would probably go beyond just the treble clef and you would add the bass clef as well. You could make that a separate lesson or a separate teaching opportunity, or you could also then show them how the treble and the bass are combined together for keyboard music or for other instruments that have a bigger range. And so you could create the same things on the bass clef that you have on the treble. And so I would put my 4/4 down on the bass clef as well. And if I wanted to put sharps or flats, I would do the same thing. If I wanted to put 1 sharp, I could show the F sharp both in the treble clef, and then I could also indicate it on the bass clef as well. So the students have to understand the difference between treble and bass and how the lines and spaces are in a different order. Now, because I have this sharp in the key of G, then I could also talk about where G is on the staff, and so I could put a note on the second line indicating G or Do in the key of G, and then I can position another note higher or lower, and so I can show stepwise motion between the line to the space, G to A, or I could also show skipping motion where the notes are farther apart. Okay, the notes can also be turned around then, and so as you go up higher above the 3rd line, you could have the stems going down, which is the correct way, the appropriate way of notating music, to have the stems going down as the notes go higher on the staff. Same thing in the bass clef. Same thing in the bass. Here we could have the note G, but again, because it's higher on the staff, we would turn the stem down. If I wanted to cancel the sharp, let's say I'm in the key of G, but I wanted to have an F natural, I would just place the natural sign then in front of the note as well. And so, again, accounting for just about any combination or any alternative of music that would use sharps, flats, combination of, and the natural sign as well. Okay, let me highlight for you the various symbols that are found within the packet. Any of the note values, we have whole notes, half notes, dotted half notes, and so forth. So any note value. And then we also have sharps or flats, which can be used to create either an accidental, changing one pitch to a sharp or a flat, or they could also be added to the beginning to create a key signature. So you could have 1 sharp or 2 sharps, various sharps. There's also a natural symbol included, and then we also have all of the rests, which correspond to the different note values. So a quarter rest is included, as well as the 1/8 rest, and I know there's half rests, which can be turned upside down for the whole rest as well. So anything that you would need to notate any type of music is included here in the musical symbol set. Thank you for your attention today. And as I said, these are just the basics that I'm showing you today. There are many more possibilities for using these wonderful quality, durable materials.